Hey guys, welcome back to Cinema 4D tutorials. Today let's have a quick tour over starting a new project in Cinema 4D using the project settings. So as we can see, our project settings are located over here in the attribute manager. Now just in case you lose your project settings, for example if you add in a cube, you can find the settings of the cube and not the project. You can simply go to edit and project settings, or a shortcut keyboard is control or command D to get your project settings. Now there's an advantage in Cinema 4D over other 3D modeling softwares. That is like you can open multiple windows, multiple projects in one single window. For example, I'll go to one more new and I'll open four projects, and in each of them I'm putting a different primitive object. Instead of a polygon, I would prefer a platonic. And then I go to window. I can open up any project from my window. I can open up all my four projects that I've opened. And one of the very powerful applications in this is that you can copy an object from one project to another project using a traditional copying method. That is, if I want to go to Untitled 3 and copy my torus, simply click on torus, Control C, go back to Windows, Untitled 1, since I want to paste my project over there, and Control V. So you see I get my torus over here. Let's go ahead and delete both of them and add in a new cube. And now let's have a look at the project settings. So I'll go to project settings by shortcut key, that is Control or Command D. Then you see I've got something as a project scale over here. Now project scale, if you change your project scale in the project settings, it's not a universal change. That is, if I change my centimeters to something like meters or kilometers in fact, then you see my project scale is changed only in this project, not in every project. So if I go to Untitled 3, I'll find that my project scale is yet centimeters and not kilometers. Back to project 1, it is kilometers. So by default your project is going to be centimeters, always your project scales. Now as we know, in my earlier tutorials I've explained that the project scale can also be changed using the preferences settings. And if you change your project scale in your preferences settings, that will be global, permanent. That is, whenever you close your Cinema 4D and restart it again, always your project setting is going to be as per set in your preferences settings. Now for watching the tutorial on preferences setting, just go into the description and watch it, since I've added the link to it. Next let's have a look at the FPS, that is a frames per second. Now frames per second decides that how many frames do you want to show, that is how many pictures do you want to add in every second. Now the greater your frames per second is, the smoother your movie is going to be. Anything above 20 for your FPS is going to make it smooth. In fact, above 15, as in if you're going to give a tutorial, above 15 your FPS is more than enough. But I'm adding it to 30 so that it will be really smooth. Now the project time is basically where your frame is currently located. Now see, if I change my frame to something like 40, you'll find that my project time has also changed to 40. I can manually change the project time over here also. Like if I want to write in 45, I enter 45 and click and enter. You see that my frame has come to 45. Now let me get it back to 0. We've got something called as the minimum time and the maximum time. The minimum time determines that from what time or frame do you want to start your project, and the maximum time determines that from what time or frame you want to end your project. Now we've also got something as a preview minimum time and a preview maximum time. Now see, we know that our project is from 0 frames to 90 frames, and we can also see it over here in minimum time and maximum time. But if I want to look at a particular portion of the project, that is from 0 frames to just 10 frames, or maybe 10 frames to 20 frames, in my preview minimum time I'm going to enter 10, and in my preview maximum time I'm going to enter 20. So now you see my preview time in the project, I mean the frames, you'll find that it's from 10 to 20 only. Although my my entire project will be from 0 frames to 90 frames. Now please don't get confused between the preview minimum time and the project time. Now next we've got something called as the level of detail. For example, if you're doing a high kind of some animation that is really really high, it has really high graphics or something, And when you're kind of watching it normally in the studio, like when you're playing your button, when you're playing your project and it comes out to be kind of really slow, you can always change the level of detail. And moving on, we have got the default object color, that is gray blue. And if you want to change your default object color, that is like something, if I want to get in a bluish kind of effect, I mean my if I now, like whenever I add in an object, my default color is going to be blue. See, if one example, if I shift this and like I shift it so that when I add in a new project, I mean a new object, you can find it. So if I add a capsule, the capsule is blue in color. If I add another primitive object like a spear, that is also blue in color. And anything that I add in, it will always be blue in color by default. By default, not always. And now moving back to project settings, I'm going to get my project color something like back to gray. And now we've got something called as a linear workflow. Basically, linear workflow, like let's go ahead and delete these three objects and get the torus back, I mean somewhere over here. I'll add in a material, and I'm going to give my torus a good color like red, and drag the material over torus. Now you see, the way linear workflow is the way your camera determines, I mean linear workflow is the way the camera sees an object, I mean the colors. So if I deactivate linear workflow, you see there will be a slight change in the studio color. You see, it's kind of become dull. And now when I again activate linear workflow, you see it becomes bright. Basically, it's got more of to do with texture. And now besides project settings, we have got another tag, that is the info tag. In the info tag, you can add all your information about the author, your copyright information, and the basic information. Now we've got something called as a dynamics, referencing, to do, and key interpolation. We are going to go over them in later tutorials as we learn more on dynamics, referencing, and other things. Till then, it's fine to learn just about the project settings and information. And that's it for this tutorial. Thanks for watching, and do watch the next tutorial. And like and subscribe since it encourages me to upload more tutorials.